Hi, I'm Benjamin Payne. At the K-12 Education office at Hillsdale College, we support school founding groups and their efforts to start classical schools across the country. Finding the right leader is one of the first and most important steps to building a successful school. While we do consider experience in education, we seek candidates who exhibit unwavering personal integrity, honesty, courage, and servant-hearted leadership. Perhaps that's you. If you're looking to engage in fulfilling, impactful, and challenging work protecting our nation's future and building up the next generation of virtuous citizens, we'd love to hear from you. I'm looking for strong school leaders right now. Learn more about how you can make a difference at hillsdale.edu/leader. hillsdale.edu/LEADER. That's hillsdale.edu/leader.
Welcome to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, bringing you insight into classical education and its unique emphasis on human virtue and moral character, responsible citizenship, content-rich curricula, and teacher-led classrooms. Now your host, Scot Bertram.
Thanks for listening. The Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast is part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you get your audio. You also can find more information on topics and ideas discussed on this show at our website, k12.hillsdale.edu. We're joined by Sonja Bindus. She is a teacher support lead with Hillsdale College's K-12 Education office. Sonja, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Scott. It's great to be here.
Talking today about the hallmarks of a classical summer, and hopefully some advice and tips for parents and anyone else out there looking to capitalize on these summer months. Sonja, let's begin by explaining, what does a classical summer look like? What can it look like? What are some of those main features?
Well, this is a great question. It kind of takes me back to my own childhood. I think about, what was summer, and summer was an amazing opportunity to kind of step back away from the hustle and bustle of the school year, right? And really connect with family and even community people, your neighbors, your neighborhood families, and really those memories that are made during those summer months are some of my fondest memories, right? As I look back to my childhood. So that's also what we want to see for our students in the K-12 network, right? This time to kind of step back, the busy schedule of the school year, the chaos, to kind of decompress a little bit from that and really take time to connect and be with family and friends and looking out into our communities, ways that they can plug in as well into their communities to gain some valuable time and experiences and really enjoy the summer months that they have off.
Before we get more specific, I want to speak for a moment about that time with siblings, time with family. School's a partnership between the school and the family, of course. So these months in the summer that children have off, what does it mean for them and for families to have this more unrestricted time together?
Right. So there's this balance, right? Taking a complete break from school and having what I call mental disengagement is not very healthy either. So there has to be this balance between relaxing the schedule a bit to still keeping in mind that schedules provide purpose to our day, right? And as humans, we kind of strive for that purpose of the day. What is my purpose today? What have I done today? And children are the same, right? They seek out those boundaries and they like that structure. So completely abandoning a schedule or, kind of a day-to-day routine can cause some issues. As you say, you mentioned siblings in your question, and that just kind of opens the door for maybe some sibling disagreements per se, or things that we really want to, stay away from during those summer months. We want everybody to kind of be enjoying their time. So finding this balance, keeping in mind also what's realistic for the family. What are they willing to monitor long term over the summer? And sometimes parents, I know I had this experience as a parent one summer. I was really overzealous in like what I thought my children were going to be doing. I was thinking of the physical activity, the number of books we're going to read. I had the whole plan, and I quickly found out that the plan was too much, right? So I had to step back and look at that. But because we want to be able to maintain whatever we have started at the beginning of the summer, we want to maintain that throughout the remainder of the months, because again, it's providing this schedule and routine for the child. So making that plan, kind of communicating as a family right off the bat, before school even gets out, like, okay, we're making a plan for this summer, and sitting down, kind of having that family chat about what summer is going to look like is really helpful and sets up families for success.
All right, let's talk about one of the perhaps bigger questions parents might have about all this time over the summer and how much time should be screen time. Children might be advocating for a larger percentage than what might be appropriate. How do we manage screen time? How do we talk to our students, our children, about screen time over the summer?
Right. That's that is a big danger, and I think something that can quickly get away from parents, right? Because sometimes as parents, we see, our child's quiet, they're quietly engaged in something, and that's all good. Nobody's fighting, and I don't have to monitor anything right now. But what quickly happens is that those minutes turn into hours and multiple hours throughout the day. And that's not really what we're looking for in the structure of a day for a child. There's too many ways to access bad things on a screen, right? Too many easy clicks to take a child to a site that might not be appropriate for them. So looking at, again, back to the schedule, if screens are going to be part of your home during the summer, what are the screens that are going to be available to the child? Are they going to be tablets? Or they're going to have a computer available to them? Are they going to have a TV available? And then kind of establishing, okay, these are the parameters from which, you can use these things. But one big parenting tip that I would like to give is that the device, the parents actually, if a child's using a tablet, even if it's an educational game, right? Like they think that they've set up, they've got, I have a audiobook, or I have a educational game set up for the child. Actually having the parent sit next to the child while they're using that device provides an opportunity for an influence, a parental, engagement with the child as they're using that device. You could pause it and ask questions and interact. And I think probably mostly it also provides the parent with an accurate understanding of how many minutes that child has been using the device, right? Because if the parent is sitting right next to the child, they're going to be much more aware, rather than, somebody's in the kitchen cooking dinner and the child somewhere else in the house. You have that disconnect, and those moments and minutes can really be extended or misused.
Can upper school usage look different than lower school usage for students?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, we look at upper school students thinking about video games or something like that, make a plan with those upper school students about those minutes. But one positive thing that upper school students can do over the summer is take a free online course. Hillsdale offers a wide variety of subjects. I love taking them as well. I mean, they're great. So this would be a great time to kind of maybe sit down at the beginning of the summer, have them look through the catalog online and pick out what might be interesting. And that would be a great way for them to dig deeper into subjects that they're really interested about.
Talking with Sonja Bindus. She is teacher support lead here at Hillsdale College's K-12 Education office. on the hallmarks of a classical summer. When we think about summer, we think about time spent outdoors. Many of us do. Nature walks or trips to historic sites. What could be some plans or ideas to maximize the availability of outdoor time over our summers?
Yeah, I love the outdoors. That's where I, as a child, loved to be, and I continue to do that as well as an adult. And I think that nature can be a great educator. So there's a lot of opportunities other than just physical exercise, right? That's the obvious benefit to being outside, whether you're riding a bike or hiking, but also you can work in talks about science and nature and mathematics in those outdoor hikes or times like that. Other things that you can be doing outside is building forts, building a garden, having your child start their own garden with maybe even just pots of tomatoes or herbs or pumpkins. That's a great science activity that they can do. Anybody knows me, they know I'm a bird geek, and I love the Merlin app. If you've all heard about the Merlin app, you can turn on a microphone and hear a songbird and identify it, and that can just blossom into a whole nother world of learning about birds and their habitat and where they live and whatnot. So those are great things to do outside. Looking at inside activities, you can look at things like journaling, letters to friends and family, having a pen pal, maybe asking somebody in the family to be the pen pal to your child, and they can send letters back and forth. I know, we don't often get mail, and children get really excited when they do get mail. And so that can be a real incentive for students to keep up on their writing skills. Create any kind of creative activity, whether that's drawing or Legos or music or woodworking, building a model car or plane. Those are all mentally engaging. And we talked about disconnecting, that mental disconnect. These are all activities that will engage and keep the brain kind of thinking about science or math or reading, kind of that sneaky way of getting those activities in that's in more of a playful enjoyment for the child.
And the summer also brings opportunities for summer programs, summer camps, summer workshops. If parents are looking at or evaluating or just, checking out details of those that are available, anything in particular that perhaps they should be looking for?
Yeah, I'd say the number one is the local library, right? Like, check out your local library. A lot of them have a summer reading program. So that is my number one recommendation, but also the Park and Recs department. They oftentimes will have not just like t-ball or baseball or softball, things like that, but maybe offer other types of short camps throughout the summer. Boys and girls clubs, local or regional historical societies that often open up their doors and do, some sort of local history event throughout the summer. And those can be really fascinating and to learn about your own community and what is the history here. I think that's just as beneficial as learning about, world history per se. I think easy things like community parks or playgrounds and planning meetups with other families once a week. Don't overcommit yourself, but planning a time that you can meet up with other families and children can, play with others is great. One thing that my kids loved was youth theater, finding a youth theater program. And they're pretty, they're shorter commitment times, but again, it's one way to engage your student if that's kind of something that they're interested in. Swimming lessons. And then lastly is just kind of looking at any kind of, this might be for older students, your upper school students, and looking at volunteer opportunities. So perhaps it's at the local shelter, the local animal shelter, walking dogs there, or helping in some way there. maybe your student plays a musical instrument. They can, volunteer to go into nursing homes and once a week and play for those residents, or even reading to those residents at the homes. Many of those residents, have lost some eyesight or have some dexterity issues. And so just spending some time with a resident and reading to them can really be a way to give back to their community.
And what about parents who perhaps are trying to catch their students up for starting in a classical school in the fall, or just preparing them for a first year at a classical school? Any advice for them?
Yeah. So, firstly, we don't want them to get too stressed out, right? Like it's nothing to really get, that their child's going to not be able to do the work in the fall. There will be a period of time where they're acclimating to the school and acclimating to the curriculum. It will be different probably from what they've had before. So just, keeping that in mind, that there are things you can do in the summer, but there will still be an acclimation period once they return to school in the fall. But some things that they can do, reading. I can't say reading enough, whether they're starting new at a classical school or not, reading each day is really important. Kind of setting, I think 20 minutes is a nice little sweet spot. Of course, anything over 20 minutes is great, but keeping a minimum is perfect. So they can have independent reading. You can have a family read time, consider like a book series that you could all do together. But, reading together, it strengthens family bonds. It increases the students' concentration and their memory. And it also, reading improves self-discipline, believe it or not. So that's why I say read. There's so many things that can be gained through that. Looking at math, we kind of think of literacy and numeracy as for the lower school as being those two top subjects. And so that's why I'm going to touch on reading and math right now. But for math, we can look at involving the child in some problem-solving activities. And an example of that might be, let's say you're taking a road trip. You're going from Hillsdale to Mackinac Island, and you get out a paper map. They still sell them, believe it or not, Scott. But,
we have a few.
So you get out a paper map, and you look at where can you find how long an inch, how many miles is an inch, and have them start calculating the number of miles, and then get into how many minutes is that going to take us. So these are, again, some kind of fun math activities to do. You can play games if, looking at math facts. That's a skill that, as students are engaging in higher level math concepts, we want them to really have their math facts down. So, I'm not saying get out the flashcards. Is that, as soon as you pull out a flashcard, I bet your, child's face is going to kind of shut down like, oh boy, right? Here we go again. But having a game with a deck of cards, right? And you can do a math fact game with the deck of cards, and addition and subtraction or multiplication. You're pulling out two cards. So any kind of game that does that is really, really helpful to the child, as they're kind of honing in on some skills that will really benefit them when they start school in the fall. One other thing you can do, you can check with the school, talk to the school leader, and see if they are offering any summer programs. Some of them offer some literacy boot camps or boot camps in nature for 1 week throughout the summer. So I would contact the local school leader and see if they have any of that. One other thing you could do is ask the school leader for a book list from the previous grade. So if your child's coming in at third grade, what were some of the books that they read in second grade or first grade? And those could be your family read aloud books, right? So you're kind of prepping them for the content and the type of books that they'll be reading in school. So those are a couple of things to do in preparation. But again, just I encourage parents to really look at all of the activities that we've discussed today and see those as opportunities for getting their child ready for school as well.
Sonja Bindus is a teacher support lead at Hillsdale College's K-12 Classical Education office. Sonja, thanks so much for joining us here on the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education podcast.
Thanks, Scott. It's been great.
I'm Scot Bertram. We invite you to like us on Facebook. Search for Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education. You also can follow us on Instagram at Hillsdale_K-12. That's Hillsdale_K-12 on Instagram. Thank you for listening to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education podcast, part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you get your audio.